Australia's global dominance in women's cricket reaffirmed. This week, holding on to the Ashes trophy after winning the multi-format series in England. And the records tumbled in what was a spectacular campaign. Elise Perry becoming the first cricketer, male or female, to pass 1,000 runs and 100 wickets in T20 internationals. It's a positive sign ahead of February 2020. Mark it in your calendars. This is Australia's time to shine, and not only on the pitch.
It is a watershed moment in women's sport where we will see more standalone events actually at major grounds, and it's fantastic that we're actually going to be hosting the double-header semi-final here on the 5th of March for the cricket.
The 7th ICC Women's T20 World Cup will be a standalone tournament held 6 months ahead of the men's. Tens of thousands of cricket fans flocking to the 8 host cities, but that's right, 2 World Cups in 1 year. The SCG playing its part, hosting the women's double-header semi-final.
It's going to be fantastic. So double-header, women's semi-final. We're looking to actually create a new benchmark, probably the next most significant benchmark for women's sport since the Kathy Freeman gold medal in the Olympics.
It's not just current form working in Australia's favour. There is also history on their side. Rewind the clock to the West Indies 9 years ago.
Straight. Oh, Elise Perry, absolutely outstanding. She's put a boot out and stopped it.
In just the second Women's T20 World Cup, an unconventional win in the final skyrocketed Australia to 2020 dominance.
Obviously, we didn't make enough runs, and then New Zealand looked on track to sort of chase it down, and then I think they needed 4 or 3 off the last ball to win, and I've never seen a ball hit so cleanly. Yeah, Pez's right foot just stuck out there, and then all I remember after that was Alex Blackwell coming up and jumping on me and hugging me, so it was a pretty special moment.
The Aussies would do it again in Sri Lanka in 2012, defeating England by 4 runs in the final. In Bangladesh 2 years later, the sides met again, Australia reclaiming the trophy with a 6-wicket victory.
I think that's probably one of the most complete performances that I've ever been a part of with the Southern Stars, and to do that on a world stage in the final it was really pleasing, and yeah, I think one of our most dominant matches against England.
The West Indies put a stop to a 4th straight World Cup for the Australians in 2016. A thrilling performance with the bat, signalling the end of the green and gold reign.
And the West Indies have won the Women's ICC World T20 title.
Redemption in 2018 against the old enemy England, returning the T20 World Cup down under. We now have just over 6 months until the 2020 Women's Tournament. After the Ashes performance, the world is already asking, how do we stop the Aussies?
Well, T20 World Cup CEO Nick Hockley joins us, and General Manager of the Sydney Sixers, Jodie Hawkins. How are we?
Very well, thanks. You?
Very good, very good. And Nick, this is exciting, isn't it? Because we're not too far away. And one of the real standout things about this T20 Women's World Cup is it opens the door to other countries, more than many other tournaments.
Absolutely. You know, it's a really exciting time, and especially now that the Cricket World Cup in England has now finished, the FIFA Women's World Cup in France, and then we've had the Netball World Cup in England, so we can now say we're the next major world cricket event and the next major Women's World Cup happening. And as you say, T20 World Cup, it's been the globalising format, and we're really excited to see the best 10 women's teams come to Australia next year.
I mean, what an Ashes campaign Elise Perry had, Jode, and ever the humble woman that she is. She said that it's how far the girls have come is all thanks to the BBL here in Australia since it was introduced in 2015, and she said that's really enabled the Australian women to be at the fore and be leading the way and be so strong out there.
Yeah, I think the WBBL's been a revelation for women's sport, probably across the world. I think the example of when you invest time and energy into a women's program, it can actually lead to not only development across the participation space, but also at that elite level and on the world stage.
And we just heard from Kerry, the CEO of the SCG, basically talking about standalone women's events. And that's what this has become, because in the past, the T20 World Cup, it's all been tied together. The women play early, the men play later. But now it's say, hey, no, this is the full Broadway event. This is the Women's World Cup. The men's will come in a few months' time.
No, that's absolutely right. So when Australia was awarded the T20 World Cups back in 2014, they were due to be played at the same time. And as you say, the last event when they were played together took place in India in 2016. And what that looked like was the women's matches would be played in the afternoon in the same stadium as the men, but obviously everyone's at school or at work in the evening. So we looked very hard at that. We looked very hard at the other major World Cups and decided to play the women's and the men's as standalone events. And what that means is that we can play both World Cups in prime time in the right-sized stadiums, under lights, and as the main event.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it, Jode? Because you're seeing just how well our Aussie cricketers are doing, our female cricketers are out there, they're just doing so well as a brand, as individuals. They're great ambassadors for this country. And, I mean, we're talking record crowds coming. It just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's really exciting off the back of a sellout crowd at Drummoyne Oval last year for the WBBL final. It was really satisfying.
What an atmosphere that was.
It was so satisfying after 4 years for the players and for the staff. You know, we invest a lot of time in making sure this product is a success. We've never looked at it as the little sister of the BBL. We've wanted to make sure that what we do with the WBBL is equal to and puts it in the same sort of, on the same stage and with the same sort of atmosphere. And it was a really satisfying moment just to see that hill at Drummoyne Oval full. This year we moved to a standalone WBBL, which is really exciting. It gets its own window. We start on the 18th of October. And to use that and to build on the momentum of last year is really exciting. And then moving into the World Cup, it's going to be a great summer for women's sport.
You've been around sporting teams for a long time in your career. When I say the name Elise Perry, what does it invoke in you? Because, look, I think, and I've said it, she is the best cricketer, male or female, in the world. And you see the manner in which she plays. What an example that Elise Perry is setting for that next generation.
And you see some of the young girls come through. We've got some 15 and 16-year-old girls in our WBBL squad, and just the learning that they're getting from watching how Elise goes about her business. She's a humble superstar. She's a superstar, but it doesn't come with any ego. She's quite an incredible person to watch go about her business, and she's always so accommodating, especially with our younger players coming through. And to have her involved and those younger girls learning from her, it sets our future up in a really solid space as well.
Oh, definitely.
Nick, in terms of the event itself, let's focus solely on the women's event at the start of next year. What are we expecting in ticket sales? What will this event bring to tourism in this country?
Well, we saw from the 2015 Cricket World Cup, which was co-hosted between Australia and New Zealand, we had 145,000 international visitors. We've gone to great efforts to make sure that we play both the women's and the men's all around the country. So the Women's T20 World Cup has 6 host cities. 5 teams will start their preparation in Adelaide, 5 will start their preparation in Brisbane. And then the opening match is at Sydney Olympic Park, Sydney Showground Stadium. On a Friday night, Australia take on India before we then go to festival weekends and concentrated 5 matches each at the Wacker in Perth, Manuka Oval in Canberra. As Kerry said, both semi-finals at the SCG.
Well, I'd like to get your response on that because this, and as Kerry mentioned, this will be the biggest women's sporting event in Sydney or in Australia since Cathy Freeman's win.
I think what will be great about those semi-finals is that people can come to that game knowing that they'll see the best 4 teams. They've got a really great chance to see their team compete. And then the prize for the 2 teams that win that day is a date at the biggest cricket ground in the world, which is the MCG on Sunday the 8th of March. And that also happens to be International Women's Day. So we've got an opportunity that day to set a world record for the highest attendance at any female sporting event in history.
And Jodie, the only thing better than the MCG is the SCG, of course. And in my view. That semi-final,
I agree.
That semi-final will be great, huh? At your home ground.
It's going to be amazing. The SCG, when it's full, is such a great atmosphere because the ground still has so much personality. It's not as much of a concrete jungle as the MCG kind of is. The SCG has such personality, and it's going to be a really great opportunity for 40,000 plus people to come and see the 4 best teams in the world, hopefully including Australia. We'll have a bit of a home ground advantage given that we have a number of players from our squad who are used to playing at the SCG. It's also a great opportunity. We have 2 players in our squad who are from South Africa who are used to also playing at the SCG, and we'd really love to see some of those players. And the players who do come out for the WBBL, it's a really great opportunity for our audiences to kind of have a second team, a second team to follow throughout the tournament.
And we love MCG and the SCG. Don't get us wrong, it's just a little bit of parochialism. We can be parochial.
Jode, I was just reading just quickly that the boss of women's cricket in England, Claire Connor, says that they'll be drawing inspiration from our Aussie format. I mean, surely that's a fair compliment to what we're doing here down under.
I think it's just reward for the fact that we've not invested words, we've actually invested action into creating the WBBL, into driving a product that we believe is the best format for women's cricket in the world, domestic women's tournament in the world. Our goal now is to how do we maintain that? When you're the leader of the pack, you've constantly got people chasing. You need to continue to push yourselves to stay at the front of that. And that's something that's at the front of our mind at the moment as we move into this next phase of WBBL and BBL. How do we continue to be leaders in our field? Yeah,
because it's changing so quickly. Very, very much finally, Nick, it's time also for the commercial, the corporatisation to level out a bit, because we talk about Elise Perry and we talk about the money that she has in contrast to what Virat Kohli has, it's a massive gap.
I think that's right, but I think taking advantage of these major world events, playing them in the biggest stadium, that's all about accelerating the current momentum, and that gap is closing really quickly, and that's what we're very committed to, is making sure we take this moment in time. We've got to remember that less than 10 years ago, Australia hosted the Women's Cricket World Cup, and there were 2,500 people came to North Sydney Oval, so we've come a long way in a short time. But absolutely, by putting on the biggest stage, we've got a real opportunity to shift the dial.
Yeah, fantastic. They are superstars.